Shout out to Baby Smack. What up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of Mac Video Profiles. Today we're going to profile the big homie, Green Eye Keystone from Rollin 60s.
Taking videos, 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 taking videos.
Keith Cardell Thomas was born in Los Angeles, California, August 25th, 1961. Stone's mother and grandfather came to LA during the black migration in the 1940s by the way of Dallas, Texas. The house his mom was raised in on Stark Street in Dallas is now a vacant lot. Stone's last name, Thomas, actually comes from his mother and his grandparents. The Thomas family would eventually escape the Jim Crow era in the South by moving nearly 1,500 miles west to the West Coast. Stone grew up on 52nd and McKinley on the east side, not far from South Park, in a territory known as the 5 Trey Avalon Gangster Crips. During this time, the surrounding Crip gangs, including the 4 Trey Gangsters, 5 Deuce Broadways, and 6 Deuce East Coast, all got along. Like the stereotypical black family, young Keystone Thomas had no father in the household. A 2-bedroom, 1920s era bungalow on Cimarron Street. His mother, a UCLA graduate and public health nurse for the county, struggled to raise 2 sons on her own. Although she managed to provide the basics of a middle-class life, Keith collected pigeons and played Little League Baseball. Not all of their hurdles were economic. All around, she faced reminders, some blatant, others insidious, that race was still a defining factor. Stone became fascinated with lowriders while living on the east side, the Bel Airs, the Chevys, and like a lot of young black youth in the inner city, he began raising roller pigeons. During the mid-1970s, Stone's mother and grandfather moved to the west side. His grandfather, 67th and 3rd Avenue, in Rollin 60s gang turf, and his mom and Stone moved to Cimarron Street in the same community.
What section from? You probably went in Rollin 60s, huh?
Plays Munchkin, he's a big bad wolf, and you're the big bitch. He's a big bad wolf in your neighborhood. Not really good, but really good.
Gang affiliate, it'll stick real quick, and in a minute start killing shit real quick.
I remember nights when they was on rules with Uzi waiting.
Some of you guys may remember the movie Boys in the Hood by John Singleton in 1991. There's little coincidence that Doughboy's house was located right there on Cimarron, a 1-minute walk or a couple houses away from where Stone lives. Stone attended Daniel Webster Junior High School in West Los Angeles. Webster, located in West LA on a shady street nestled just below the curve where the 10 and the 405 freeways meet. Webster was probably most known for his busing program from the inner city and a local Mexican gang, the Sotel 13. Unlike their southern Mexican rivals, Culver City, Venice, and Santa Monica 17th Street, they didn't share any territory with the black gang. In 1974, when Keith was just 13 years old, he became acquainted with the other side of this world that he loved so much. At the West Side Savings and Loan with his mother and his cousin Walter, a clerk pushed the alarm button. Keith and Walter were thought to be bank robbers, not because of their behavior, but because of their physical appearance. It was once stated that more than a dozen police officers showed up, went inside the bank, and drew guns on the two young black youth. Keith screamed out, "I didn't do anything." This situation became traumatizing for him, so much so that he went back to the east side where he was born. But he still visited and he still attended schools on the west side. In 1977, Keith attended Crenshaw High School, located on 11th Ave between 50th and 52nd Street, one block east of Crenshaw Boulevard and the famous Crenshaw Wall. Graffiti artists that sprayed New York-style graffiti couldn't wait to hit Crenshaw Wall. In the late 1980s, there was a mural painted on the wall dedicated to LA legend rapper Ice-T that said "Rhyme Pays." It had the word ice with the Uzi up under it for the letter T. One of the most recent murals depicted pictures of the Black Panthers. While attending Crenshaw High, believe it or not, Stone excelled in gymnastics. And one of his classmates, coincidentally on the same page, Pretty Boy from Rollin 60s. Stone went on to be an entrepreneur. Not only did he have his own auto body shop and other businesses, he bought property in Seattle and in Los Angeles. Although he sported the throwback style gang attire and wore the afro, he was always ahead of the curve when it came to business and showing the little homies what a big homie is supposed to be about.
I learned how to become a man and a father more than anything from my father, and from Keith Stone. Let me say this. From my father, I learned how to be a father when I wanted to be. But from Keith Stone, I learned how to be a hustler and a father and a man and a leader, all of that.
He was well loved and he loved to love. He would often dress straight Crip down, but always on the unity tip for young black gang members.
Let me tell you what Keith Stone was to me. I got out after all those cases in '87, and Stone was just not coming back from Seattle, coming back home, but he had been hustling there.
On the West Coast, there's little doubt that California replaced Florida as the chief port for Colombian cocaine cartels in the mid-'80s. Weapons were circulating widely. Easy money was close behind. The most aggressive and ambitious members of the Rollin 60s, lacking other economic opportunity, responded to the message well. The Rollin 60s were one of the first Los Angeles gangs to cash in on the drug trade, shifting their focus from neighborhood rule to for-profit endeavors. This included branching out to other states and setting up shop for drug profits.
And Stone was the first person to ever be selling weed. Like, he was the first one getting chronic and all that stuff and bringing it to Seattle. He was telling me, this is the wave of the future. This is the wave of the future. I'm like, bro, I don't know nothing about that. Give me that white shit and let's go. So, he was always telling me, man, now you got to get out that game.
Stone allegedly had the weed game sold up from LA to Seattle and back. Stone spent money on old classic lowriders, top of the line. He bought pigeons from Cornell Norwood, a renowned Birmingham roller breeder in the South Los Angeles community. These were considered one of the best bloodlines in all of California, and these birds were a little pricey. Strangely enough, he also housed a hawk in his backyard, a roller pigeon's worst enemy when flying through the sky.
Stone bought a house in 1989 on 60. And he was the first one of our big homies that I know had bought a house. And he used to always have his kids with him. And he used to always be like, man, the most important thing is family, man. You gotta have your family with you. I'm not letting no other person raise my kids. I want my sons to know me and my daughter to know me. He used to always have his babies with him all the time. And Stone was in the lowriders. So Stone had relationships with dudes from every gang. You know, he had relationships with Bloods, he had relationships with dudes from all different sets. And we used to go places. And Stone, everybody knew him and respected how he moved. He used to always tell me, man, you can't go tearing up places when we go somewhere. But I was still young, I was still wild. You know what I mean? I felt like I wanted to push the line for the hood, and I wanted the homies, I want dudes to respect us no matter where we went. So I still was in that kind of mentality, which was necessary at that time, and it was a crew of us. We went to an event with Stone one time, and it ended up turning out real bad. And after the event, we all made it home. And I never forget Stone was chastising me. You trying to get me sent to jail. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why you? I'm like, man, but it's the hood though. This is what we supposed to do. He like, man, you do it at the right time. The shit you just did was not necessary. He would analyze and break everything down and how things should be done and when it should be done. And this is where I learned that from. And I remember I had took a loss. And I was on some other stuff. He came to me, never forget it. He knew I took a loss and I was at home. And I was just in my house, me, Big S Mac, GB, and Bronco T. We was just in my house. We got guns all over this mud. Me and S Mac sitting on the couch playing video games. And Stone come over there, he like, man, let me holler at you. He took me in the back room. He pulled out a bag and he gave me a bag. He said, get on your feet, man, and respect the game. I'm like, he like, I'll holler at you. Holler at me when you're ready. And he just left. And that was what a big homie's supposed to do. You know what I mean? He ain't say, pay me back nothing. And he gave me 35 racks. And then just rolled off like I'm gone.
Stone had built a rapport with some of the members of the Durock Crips. In 1990, the Rollin 60s and the East Coast Crips had a football game at Bethune Junior High. In attendance was the Durock Crips. In June of 1990, Stone bought a house in what they now call the Overhills. Stone paid $122,000 for this house, which is now worth 10 times its value at $1.2 million. When Stone purchased his home up the hill on 60th Street, he was real good and real friendly to the homies. He had an open door policy. He let the homies come through. As long as you wasn't a known informant or wearing a wire, you could come through for barbecues, picnics, meetings, play video games, watch him fly his birds. There was a host of events going on at Stone's house, playing chess, checkers. There was a lot of things to do there. It was a nice-sized property, nice-sized backyard. And it wouldn't be the 60s if wasn't no gambling going on.
Stone was the organized. Stone had us all together. Like we was having picnics, we was partying. Everybody's coming to Stone house. We was moving a different way.
Keith Cardell Thomas really made the slogan Rich Rollin look good. He really lived up to it. And the best part about Stone, he let the little homies kick it too. And one of the more memorable times, he allowed the homies to come to his house after Baby Fee's funeral in February of 1991. Stone had built up a great working relationship with the Roc Crips in Monrovia or Duarte, California, and allegedly became the main drug supplier to the Durock Crips. One in particular was known as Ant Dog. 32 miles separate Rollin 60 Crip gang turf from the city of Duarte, which is bounded by the north by the San Gabriel Mountains, to the north and west by the cities of Bradbury and Monrovia, to the south, Irwindale, and to the east, Irwindale and Azusa.
I actually didn't know no Durocks. I only knew Ant. And the dude had flipped from claiming Durock, and we put him on the hood.
The Durock Crips originated in the 1970s and fall under the Gangsta Crip car, also known as Trays or 3 Times Umbrella, align themselves with all Gangsta Crips in particular the A-Tray Gangster Crips located in South Los Angeles. The Durocks are the only black street gang in the Temple Station area, with a membership of at least 150, making them one of the largest Crip gangs throughout the San Gabriel Valley.
Because I was kind of jealous. Stone, my big homie. I'm like, man, where does this dude come from? And Stone was like, man, all he good, man. You can't be just tripping on everybody. And Stone just was so, Stone was real kind. Like Stone would help anybody, man. He didn't care. He was a good dude.
According to one newspaper, Stone organized drug selling crews that branched out to other states. He bought speedboats, all-terrain vehicles, and a classic 1963 Chevy with hydraulic lifts and vanity plates that said Stone 63. When he allegedly handed out guns to the homies, it was for protection, not to put in work.
He was nowhere like I was at the time, but I think I'm more like that now. But Stone would help anybody, and at the time, I don't even know where dude came from. I don't even know where Ant came from, but he had moved in, was living with Stone. He was living in Stone's house. And Stone and he was living with us. I'm like, man, this dude always around. You know what I mean? I wanted to see if he can fight, you know, me being young. I'm like, man, nah, man, we're gonna line this dude up. He always wanna be around. I'm like, man, you don't wanna come in the hood? He's like, yeah, man, I'll bang the hood if Stone let me. And I'm like, all right, nigga, you gonna bang the hood. So that was my way of getting to him.
Shortly after, the ex-football player and Hall of Famer Jim Brown founded his American Foundation for Social Change in 1988, he hooked up with a lot of well-known and well-respected gang members throughout the county of Los Angeles, including Keystone Thomas.
I was playing semi-pro football, and one of my partners from Inglewood family, we was all on the same team. We was on the semi-pro team. Me, Lil F-Bone, Bronco T, JT, Cobby. We was all playing semi-pro football. I had this black van, and we was playing in Pasadena. And they came and said, man, Jim Brown having a meeting, and he want gang members to come up there. I was just a fan of Jim Brown. I was only going just because it was the legendary Jim Brown. So we get up to Jim Brown house, and we were so excited. We still had everything on but our football pants. They gave us some sheets to put down. And they was having a meeting. They was like going around, and Tank Magruder from Compton, a couple of more dudes was in there, and they was all talking. And so they was like, yeah, this shit might work because we see y'all got Big U in here. We can go. And I'm like, but I had just cut my hair off and I had a flat top. And so they in there like, and so T. Rogers. I knew T. Rogers from having a phone store on Crenshaw and Crenshaw and Slauson. So while they in there talking, they talking about, yeah, man, you know, because at that time it was on with us, and it was on with us in the Compton and on with us in the Grapes. So it was like they come on our side, we on them. We go on their side, which we never had to go to Compton. It was kind of like on like that, but not all the way like on like it was us and the gangsters. So when they was looking at me in there, and so Stone and all them not Stone, but Jim Brown and T. Rogers trying to figure out who was Big U. Like, who was the nigga they keep referencing? And then when it got ready to come to my time to speak, I got up. I'm like, we was finna leave. And so T them like, nah, let's stay and wait and see. So then I guess T. Rogers figured I was Big U. So that's when Jim jumped me. Jim like, oh no. So Jim jumped me. He was like, man, I said, man, I don't call nothing for the 60s, bro. I said, I could bring my big homie up here who speak for us. He tell me what to do, and then I tell the rest of the niggas what to do, and that's what we doing. He was like, well, bring Stone up here, man, whoever you. I said, that's the only one nigga I'm gonna listen to, bro. And he know more of this business and his other shit, and that's how Stone got to the table. Shortly after that, a lot of shit happened. I ended up going to jail for the case that I did 13 years for.
On February 1st, 1992, television news reported the body of two men found shot in the head and handcuffed to each other in a wooded area on the outskirts of Duarte. Authorities investigating the homicide reported that these two men were killed execution style in a Duarte Avocado Grove area. Almost a week later, the news was reporting that the Avocado Grove murders was still a mystery. But in the 60s, we lost a good friend and a good homeboy. Keith Thomas and Danny Chapman, both of LA, were discovered at 2:30 p.m. on a Saturday, lying in the back of a Ford Explorer by a caretaker. The vehicle was partially hidden by an avocado tree in a grove on 41 acres in a secluded residential neighborhood near Los Lomas Road and Sunnydale Drive. The bodies had been in this truck for at least a day before they were found. Following the investigation into their deaths, homicide detectives referred to Keystone Thomas as a Crips Kingpin and said that he and a friend were killed as a result of a drug deal that went bad. Stone was an OG with love for the hood, but he wasn't down for that stupid gangbanging, that senseless killing stuff, quotes one Rollin 60 member who asked that his name not be used. Now, I ain't gonna say that he never did no shooting, but it wasn't like these kids now who shoot 9 or 10 times, then open their eyes to see what they hit.
The one thing I do know, Jim loved his Stone. Whatever, I never met him. I don't know him, but the way Jim Brown speak on Stone, man, he said he cried when Jim loved him some Stone.
Everybody loves Stone.
For a lot of people, a big homeboy had been taken away. There would be no more going over to his house to work out, no more going over to Stone's house to watch the big screen, football games, or movies like Scarface. No more going over there on the weekends for high-stake dice games and dominoes. No more exotic dancers. No more watching him fly his pigeons, hop his lowrider. Those days was gone on 60th Street. On April 29, 1992, using fingerprints found in the Explorer and information from informants, sheriff detectives arrested 4 alleged Durock members. This was big news throughout Los Angeles. Guys like T. Rogers, Jim Brown paid their respects. Even some 5-tray gangsters showed up to his funeral. And needless to say, so did a whole lot of OG Rollin 60s. The sad thing about this case is that Keystone Thomas and Fitzpatrick were close friends. Thomas had given him money, given him clothes, let him stay in his house, and the result of those acts of kindness were repaid by his execution. Anthony Fitzpatrick, also known as Fitz, and 3 of his homeboys were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for the murder of Keystone Thomas.
Fitzgerald, the one who actually was convicted of killing Stone, came to Calipat. When he came to Calipat, we had a Mexican standoff with what did we call it? OVG, the San Gabriel Valley, all of them. They got together, and all the Blue Notes they got together on the yard, and they came and told us that what happens on the streets stays on the streets, and that, we can't do nothing to Fitzgerald. when he come.
So they ran the Blue Notes, or that Blue Notes is just trying to be peacemakers?
But I mean, you know, they was really just doing what they doing. They was trying to be peacemakers on one note, and they was trying to be peacemakers. I would say they didn't have bad intentions. They were just trying to keep it 100 with what the prison was about. But then they knew the situation with us was bigger than whatever how you say. They shot, and that wasn't gonna happen. If nothing else in my lifetime, if it was one thing in my life that was not gonna happen, that man wasn't gonna walk the yard with us. Period. And I actually stayed on that yard to try to catch him. And make a long story short, we caught him.
You was in jail when Stone got killed, right?
Yeah, I left. When Stone got killed, I left. But no, when Stone got killed, I was in trial. I was just starting trial when Stone got killed.
You knew all these people personally, just like Stone knew.
No, I actually didn't know no Durock. I only knew Ant.
Rest in peace, Keith Stone Thomas.